Welcome to our presentation called The Answer for Today. So many people today are looking for answers on how to make their finances work in our crazy economy. It seems there's an ever-widening gap between those who have a lot and those who don't have much. During this short presentation, you may just find some of the answers you're looking for. So, for those who have ears to hear and eyes to see, let's get started. First, a look at some eye-opening statistics. These numbers are known by those in finance and insurance and have not significantly fluctuated in over 50 years. By the time 100 people pass through life and reach the age of 65, you will find 1 wealthy and 4 financially fit. Astoundingly, the remaining 95% will either be deceased or just getting by. This presentation is about 6 wealth principles that those 5% use and teach their children. Most of us never learn this information in school and consequently don't apply it in our lives. These principles are easy to do and easy not to do. Many times you don't see immediate results from these principles, but applied over time, they are life-changing. You know, we're taught to go to school, get good grades, graduate with a degree, get a good job at a good company, climb the ladder of success, then after 40 years, retire. It's called the 40-40-40 plan. You work 40 hours a week for 40 years and then try to retire on 40% of what wasn't enough while you were working. The only problem is it is an industrial age plan, and this is the information age. The reality of today is there's very little job security. People are working more hours doing multiple people's jobs without getting extra pay. Benefits keep getting cut, and healthcare costs are totally out of control with higher deductibles on top of it. And student loan debt? There's more student loan debt than credit card debt. Debt. One of those things that's easy to get into, hard to get out from under. Definitely not a good way to start out on our financial path. Then there's the tough job market, especially for those that just starting out. Don't feel too comfortable if you have a good job. How many people do you know in the last 10 years who are comfortable only to have the rug pulled out from underneath them? Plus, don't forget about the underfunded retirement that most have. The reality of today leaves people looking for a better way. So, what are the principles that the 5% use to build wealth? My sincere desire is for some of these principles to stand out for you so that you can make changes to have a better life. So, let's get started. Principle number 1 is compound interest. If you ask a person, what would you rather have? A penny doubled every day for a month or $1 million? Many pick the $1 million. That's because no one ever told them about the power of compounding. As you can see by choosing the compounding penny, by day 28 you would have $1.3 million. By day 29 you would have $2.6 million. And by day 30, $5.3 million. A difference in choice of $4.3 million overall. So there's something to this compounding that we need to pay attention to. Albert Einstein was a genius. He called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. By the way, the one who pays it is the one who's in debt. Remember those student loans and credit card debt? They're the ones on the paying side. This next diagram is something really good to take a look at. This shows a person starting out at age 30 who puts away $500 a month and gets 7% compound interest. Halfway through at age 50, they will have accumulated $260,000. By age 70, they will have accumulated over $1.3 million. However, if they didn't start saving until age 50, they would have to save $2,500 per month just to end up in the same amount. I sure hope this helps you see the power of compounding over time, so you can apply it in your own life. Principle number 2 is time. What's more valuable, time or money? Well, time is more valuable. You can always make more money, but once time is gone, you can't get it back. How we spend our time will determine our wealth, as seen from the last slide. Please remember this consideration and use your time on things that make a difference. Principle number 3 is leverage. This graphic, developed by author and businessman Robert Kiyosaki, sums up our earning options. The options on the left side of the quadrant do not use this principle of leverage. Those on the right side do. When a person works a job, they exchange time for money. If they want to earn more, they work more hours. But there's a limit to the amount of time a person can give. They can get a better paying job, but in either case, there will be increasing taxes to overcome. The employee exchanges time for money. There is no leverage. The self-employed might have it a little better because they're the boss, but they are also limited by their own efforts. When they go on vacation, the income stops. They also have no leverage. The business owner, on the other hand, has a big advantage because they get paid on their own efforts plus the efforts of their employees. J. Paul Getty, at the time the richest man in the world and the first billionaire in the U.S., said, "I would rather earn 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own." He understood the power of leverage. For the business owner, the more employees, the more leverage. Finally, the investor. An investor has money that is put to work in stocks, commodities, and real estate with a leveraging strategy. However, there is risk to principal, plus you have to have money to start with or to refund poor choices. Are you thinking of starting a traditional business? The average startup in the U.S. is around $75,000. Some less, some quite a bit more. 90% of businesses fail in their first 5 years. If you put down $75,000 and the business doesn't make it, or if you took out a loan, things won't be looking so good. So there's a lot of risk to starting traditional business. The next wealth principle is tax savings. After all, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Most people do not truly realize how much they actually pay in taxes, nor how much they could be saving. Back to Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, we see again that you really want to be earning from the right side. Notice the tax percentages per earnings paid by each type of earner. Again, it's not what you make, it's what you keep that counts in the end. The next wealth principle is to eliminate debt. Debt is something that is easy to get into and very hard to get out of. You want to become debt-free to break the chain holding you back from financial freedom. Besides, why pay for anything more than once? The great deal you just got on something you bought isn't a great deal if you had to go into debt to buy it. So get rid of debt and pay in cash. The sixth wealth principle is to live on less than you make. The author of the classic book, The Richest Man in Babylon, George Clason, states the reason why we have never found measure of wealth, we never sought it. If you haven't read this easy-to-read book, I suggest you read it. It's about living on 90% of what you make while saving and cautiously investing the rest. Paul Zane Pilzer's best-selling book entitled The Next Millionaire has as the last sentence in his book the statement, "The single most important trait for financial success is the capacity to willingly delay gratification." So learn to live on less than you make and save and cautiously invest the rest. In review, we have covered compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world, time and not to waste it, the power of leverage and getting paid on more than just your own efforts, tax savings, which in terms of dollars can yield the greatest swing for most people, to be debt-free versus paying for things more than once, and to live on less than you make so you can save and then cautiously invest the rest in the correct quadrants. The question is, how do we apply these principles in our own life to ensure that we will be one of the 5% at time of retirement? The answer thousands are discovering is private franchising. But before we can show the strengths of this solution, let's examine. The best way to understand geometric progression is to look at linear progression first. Linear progression is 1 plus 1 equals 2, plus 1 equals 3, plus 1 equals 4, etc. Geometric progression looks like this.